two of my favorite people in the world, Zachary Weiner and Alexis Ohanian. They are good friends, the best of chums, and so they decided that why not combine their panels together into one amazing panel. If you don't know Zachary Weiner, he has the third largest comic online.
That's being pretty generous.
Yeah. I mean, no, not in terms of quality. I mean, I'm talking about hits. It's like probably number 20 or 30 in quality. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Obviously. And then to my far left, we have Alexis Ohanian. If you don't know Alexis, he's the co-founder of Reddit. He also, I believe, was instrumental in Hipmunk, Bread Pig, things. I don't know. You have a laundry list of things that you've done. They also recently released a book called Without Their Permission, which is all about something that I think everybody here could learn more about, which is basically we don't need to wait for people to make the things that we want. To tie it into gaming, we don't need to wait for companies to make queer characters, the things that we want. The tools are all out there right now, whether it be Unity or Twine or this or that, and you know, there's no reason to wait for companies to make it. We can make those things ourselves. So I'm really honored that Alexis was able to come here today. I mean, Zach is, I mean, I get Zach, whatever, he's nobody. But yeah, I mean, I basically, you know, I just kind of want to open it up to y'all and, you know, whatever you guys want to talk about, because it's a combined panel. Zach is currently drawing a penis. This is actually not a joke. He's actually drawing a penis.
I was not clear. Was there a wager, or what were the circumstances
for that drawing?
Oh yeah, anybody want it?
See? You didn't ask for permission. You got it
That was
without
good.
permission.
can sign it.
Excellent way to take it.
Sign it, yeah. Sign it.
Good start.
Well, okay. I'll give you the TLDR on the book. I have gotten to watch. So Steve and I started Reddit 9 years ago in a little apartment. We raised 12 grand from Y Combinator. It was the first ever investment that they had made. And neither of us knew what the hell we were doing at all. No fucking clue. And what is amazing is now it's 110 million people a month on this massive platform with 500,000 communities all over the world, sharing links, having discussions. And all of that good fortune happened in part because of open source software, actually largely because of open source software. In the last 9 years, I've watched so many other platforms emerge and evolve, and as I was saying to Zach earlier, that are allowing people like Zach Weiner, who would otherwise be totally unemployable, to make a living, not just working as a closed captionist, which, fun fact, he was doing.
Yes.
That's true. This guy would have to listen to the words that Kim Kardashian said and write them down. That's true. On the tour, I told people that. So I
Really?
yeah.
It wouldn't have been Kim Kardashian, but that's basically
Was it? Yeah.
It would have been Chloe.
I wrote down words by Pitbull, which were like
Pitbull.
hardly intelligible as like human language.
And that, I think we can agree, would have been a waste of his talent. And I mean, you're not the greatest.
No, third best.
Third best.
Yeah.
But still.
we couldn't get Randall Monroe's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
We couldn't get Matthew, we couldn't get the XKCD people.
Yeah. Penny Arcade.
The list really goes on. Simon Happiness. No, but anyway, it really makes me happy to know that Zach can make a living doing that, and I've had the privilege of working with him through Bread Pig and a number of projects. And the best part is, this is just the beginning. There are so many other people who are now hacking their ways into careers that never would have existed before. And so my advice to you is this, right now there's a really binary perception of, let's call them artists or creatives or makers, right? You've either made it, or you're a starving artist, or you haven't. Right? It's very binary. There's sort of Rihanna, or you're a nobody, or you're a Watterson, or you're a nobody. And what's happening now, literally right now, there are people finding a third path, and they're actually making a real living. They're making good money to pay bills and live their life and spend all their time just creating, not working as a barista, not doing freelance work, like just creating. And a lot of it, of course, is because of platforms like Kickstarter, Indiegogo. I'm a backer, full disclosure, one called Patreon. There are so many things happening right now that are so exciting because none of us know what the fuck's happening. And so it just reminds me of 9 years ago starting Reddit, and it's up to you guys to do whatever the hell you want.
Since I'm not an investor in Patreon, I can actually speak to that. And it amazing platform, and it's something that I think is amazing. When you look at people like our bosses of honor, like Maddie Bryce, or you look at even Zach Weiner, even Zach Weiner. But there's so many people who are on there who are doing things that are really amazing to the community, but they may not be able to create a product that they could get on Kickstarter. They're creating games criticism, or they're doing this or that. And by having a system where people can say, yeah, I love your work, I'm willing to give you $5 a month, like that's worth it to me. That's amazing, because now Zach doesn't have to rely on necessarily just ad sales on his website. He's getting a steady income because of Patreon from people who are like, yes, like your art is worth $3 a month to me, or it's worth $10 a month to me.
And they're all overpaying for that.
Yeah.
It was free. I don't know why we would pay for that.
Yeah, actually, the best thing about Patreon is the stability. Every other source of revenue I have is seasonal and weird and variable and subject to recessions and such. I suppose Patreon is too, kind of, but...
Full disclosure, I do have a Patreon. I'm up to $14 a month. So
what do you create?
I'm creating a geekier, queerer world. So
Can you talk about what you would create if you got to $5,000 a month?
if I get to $5,000 a month, I'm going to create a queer wrestling league.
Go on.
So I already have this all planned out. I think.
That's kind of redundant.
I do have this shirtless guy who has on the back of his pants says "over it" on his butt. Here, but I want to start a queer wrestling league, and there's actually a female game reviewer who's, I don't think is here, her name is Danielle from Polygon. She boxes full-time, and there's Dan Reichert from Giant Bomb, who's also a big mark. I want to put them against each other, and I want to have a Polygon versus Giant Bomb match. Yeah.
Would this be, so this is a wrestling league in the sense that like WWE is like a real competition, or is this really?
No, this is pro wrestling. So there'd be chair, there'd be,
okay.
And then I would be like the heel manager, I would like blow salt in someone's eyes.
Anyway,
And I was thinking like, one of the really like the big bad heel would be a guy called the Privileged, and he'd be just like this super white cis, just like. I get anything I want.
And why do you guys need your own separate?
Yeah, why do you guys need your own separate wrestling? I only came here because this is stupid. I can go into a store and nobody gives me weird looks. And then it just ends in, yes, he'd be booing. And you'd be like, yeah. And then you'd be excited when he gets defeated.
I like how much thought you put into this. Yeah. All right, where can I find your Patreon page?
I'm patreon.com/Gaymer, Gaymer.
Oh, nice.
You gotta get it early. You gotta get those names early.
So that was a good segue.
Yeah. Jack Conti's cool.
Yeah.
So what else? What are you working on nowadays, Mr. Ohanian?
Mostly just I did an 80 university college tour. That's redundant. I did an 80 university tour talking to college students all over the country about this stuff, about entrepreneurship, and it was amazing. And then I've spent the last 2 months detoxing from drinking and eating like a college student for 5 months in a row.
Wow.
Can't do it at 30.
So I know that prior to the book release and it's kind of, this push, you've been really, really involved in the fight for net neutrality and fighting SOPA and different things like that. And, we have actually the EFF here, and, one of the things that they were talking about was about how, a free web is a queer web, because it allows you to explore your identities, allows you to do things where, you don't have to be scared of being tracked, or especially for people who are exploring their identity.
Yep.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about why it's so important that we have an open web and why it's not closed off or whatever.
Well, I think this conference is a great example of that, right? Like, what the technology does is it allows disparate people all over the world to connect over common interests. And it might be a My Little Pony Warhammer crossover, which is an amazing subreddit called My Little Warhammer.
Wow.
True.
I'll join that.
I love My Little Pony Warhammer crossover. But more importantly, I talk about this a lot because it also allows us, our right to privacy allows us to explore who we are in a safe space. The right to pseudonymity or anonymity online also allows us to explore who we are in a safe space. And you'll get these quotes from people with the surname Zuckerberg that they want everyone to only use their real name and to use their real ID. And this is so wrong. in part because, and we see this all the time online, right? Every single day there's another person coming out to a community online where he or she feels safe that they would never be able to if they had to attach their real name to it. And so, you know, there was an AMA from Sir Tim Berners-Lee maybe 6 months ago that should be like required reading for everyone. And he talks about these ideals of the open internet. And I know we haven't always lived up to them, and our government is always trying to fuck that up. But I think the voices, and we've seen this even in just the last like 6 or 7 years of social media, the most historically marginalized voices have the most to gain from a neutral and open internet. Because if it is that way, it's a level playing field. Good ideas can win for their merit, not because they adhere to what the people in power want.
And do you think that that's part of the reason why they're trying to kind of close off the web is because people in power are starting to realize that with an equal playing field, it puts them at a disadvantage?
Oh yeah, oh yes. As a member of that white male cis power structure, it's not that we have meetings like to talk about this.
You're just not invited.
Oh damn it! But it is absolutely, it's a threat, right? Whether it's in politics, whether it's in large business, whether it's in media, you know, it was a tremendous amount of power that one had when you had access to resources and labor and media and whatever the thing was that most people didn't have. And as more and more of that gets democratized, and we're going to talk about cryptocurrency in the very near future, that's another really interesting one that's part of this. But like I said from the jump, I didn't know, Steve and I didn't know what we were doing when we started Reddit. I don't really know what's next for the internet going forward. That's why I'm on the edge of my seat, literally on the edge of my seat, waiting to see what you all create, what you all do. Because it's going to be a really exciting time. And like I said, if this guy can make a fucking living, like, there must be something. Something is something.
Something very right or something very, very wrong.
Could you repeat the thing that you want us all to read, please?
Oh, an AMA from Sir Tim Berners-Lee. So if you go on your DuckDuckGo or your Googles, just Google Sir Tim Berners-Lee AMA. And
Is that 2 words?
which part? Sir Tim Berners-Lee. And then and one other thing that I will point out too. So one of my favorite little anecdotes about the world that used to be and the world that we're in now, and Zach's actually this is a good transition. So there are a couple stories I'd always go back to. One was about the woman who was working as like I don't know, a waitress and like couldn't get any time. She wanted to be a writer, but like just didn't have the time, didn't have the money, had to just wait tables all the time. And one day her rich friend, this was about 60 years ago, a rich friend of hers was like, listen, you know, you're too talented, like take a year off and just write. Okay, don't wait any tables, just write. And so she did. She took a year off and she wrote To Kill a Mockingbird. So Harper Lee, right, author of one of the greatest works of American fiction, may have never written that book because she never had a chance to take a year to just create art. Now she was lucky enough to have one rich friend today, and the reason why I was so excited about Patreon was because you have the opportunity to make a living just making your art. And that's going to mean more artists getting their 10,000 hours, becoming better, making more of it. And then you've got the story of the dude in the Pacific Northwest who worked at the ASPCA, couldn't stand his job because it was just hurting him so much. He loved animals so much that he was like, I'll just start drawing a comic in my local newspaper. We'll see if people like it. And it turned out they did. They really liked it. And he thought, all right, I can get paid for this. I could go all over the country and syndicate my comic in newspapers. And so he went on vacation down to San Francisco, talked to the Chronicle. They said, we love your comic, you're in. Went back home, and that hometown newspaper said, listen, your comics are just too offensive. We gotta drop you. And if he hadn't taken that vacation, Gary Larson probably never would have continued with The Far Side. And that was just some really fortunate circumstances for a couple of very talented people. But like, you never have to worry about a censor. You never have to worry about that. And if you haven't seen his TED Talk about it, it's really good because it brings up the fact that like, comics have always been such an amazing, wonderful way for us to not only like laugh, but also to tell the things that a lot of people don't want us to be talking about. And that's one of the reasons why I do, in spite of everything else, actually respect Zach for his words.
One directional.
So, I mean, I think that kind of brings up something I kind of wanted to get to, which is the idea of almost like social currency, where, you know, that's something that we actually plug. We explore in Read Only Memories coming soon, in November. In Read Only Memories, we actually talk about our game that's coming out. It's a cyberpunk adventure game. It takes place in Neo, San Francisco. You ever play Snatcher? 90s Sierra adventure games, point and clicks.
Can you play King's Quest?
Yeah, it's a King's Quest,
Okay,
but it's queer.
Nice.
That takes me seriously. Yeah, and we talk about a lot of tech weird stuff too. So, anyways, one of the things I think is going to happen, and we explore it in the game, but I think is happening very quickly, is the idea of social, currency, and whether it be like with Patreon, where Zach is getting paid, if someone wants to pay $1 or whatever. But one of the issues with something like with Patreon is that if someone pays a low amount, they have to get charged, a credit card fee. While let's say that as cryptocurrency advances, and we're going to get, this is actually the panel right after this, we're going to talk about cryptocurrency, there's no credit card fees. And so as art and as things get created, it's going to make it that much more easier to be like, oh, I like that, here's 10 cents. And if you're creating things that matter to people, you might be, you actually can get a living off of that because you're influential. People are like, oh, here's 5 cents, here's 5 cents, here's 10 cents. But it all adds up.
Yeah.
That wasn't a question.
Yeah, it's cool.
This is like the cosmic path all over again.
Yeah.
You ever played any video games before?
Aren't they for children?
You're still turning heel right now.
I know. If you ever do that wrestling league, I'll be a heel. I'd be happy to.
Yeah? To bring out your child and be like, I'm allowed to adopt a child.
I could come out and be like, did you know wrestling is fake? And then someone could kick my ass.
And wait, I have a question for Zach.
Yeah.
I actually lifted this from an AMA that helped me realize, I hadn't realized this until someone had asked you, I think in an AMA, because in your comics, you have so many characters that run the gamut, whether you're talking about academics or students or people or families or kids, whatever. And you talk about so many issues in such a nonchalant way. Like, you treat homosexuality as just a thing, like it's not a punchline.
Right.
It's just a thing.
Yeah.
And it was only when I read that AMA question you, I was like, holy shit, like he really does, like you have done this amazing subversion. What's the thinking behind it?
I don't know if this is why I did, but I read a good story about it, which was Bill Cosby. So it used to be when you were a comedian, a big way to make money would be to put out an album of like your stand-up, right? And so Bill Cosby said he explicitly never put his face on the cover of an album because he thought people would see he was black and they would categorize him. So somewhere he explicitly says this. He says, I wanted people to first like the comedy before they found out I was black, and then it'd be too late, right? So I feel like, there's a place certainly for people who have a more abrasive approach to civil rights of various kinds, but there's also, I think, a place for people who sort of, try to say, I'm like you, but this is who I am, or this is what I believe. And so I've sort of tried to adopt a more passive approach. And I think there's, especially when you get to a movement that's in a later, more developed stage, I think it's useful to do that, to try to bring in people who are maybe on the fence or think this is some sort of outlying idea or something. So I was kind of motivated by that. But actually, part of it was too, I think the first time I included like someone who was just incidentally gay, like it was irrelevant to a joke or anything, it was maybe around 2008 or so. And I remember as late as then, I thought I was worried people would not get the joke because they'd be like, well, I don't get it. Why are there gay people and it's not a joke? But I put it out and it went just fine. And so I think there's also this thing where you worry that you're pushing too hard and it turns out it's not even there. You're pushing against something imaginary. And so after I did that, I was like, oh, I can do anything. And so it's been really cool since then. In fact, it's actually kind of neat. It makes me a little sad, but I think it's good in general. I don't even really get kudos for it anymore. I did it early on. Now it's just like, yeah, of course you do that. I do occasionally, but I think it's nice. I feel like that's a sign of a healthy change.
Well, I think you do get kudos because when you look at like our gamers,
yeah,
your comics are always pretty
really
popular, and the reason for that is because you were one of the first artists that have queer characters in your comics and has nothing to do with the joke.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh yeah, there's two guys, whatever. You seems like you just pick it at random,
yeah,
which is what games should be, where it's like, yeah, like we're at a point where we're at. I believe there are no main characters that have ever been queer ever in a AAA title, and
yeah,
it should it should just be whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be. I don't think that anyone's asking for every character to be gay or whatever.
Right.
But it seems like your work actually accurately reflects.
That's what I tried to
life.
do. Right. Yeah, I was just reading, of course, every time you post about GaymerX online, someone's an asshole in the comments. And there were all these people who were like, why is sexuality even in games? Which is the most absurd, asinine idiotic thing. It's like saying, well, why do we have sexuality in books? You know? Why are you even bringing it up?
I'm just trying to read
I'm
here.
just trying to
Just trying to watch a movie without some kind of romantic
Yeah,
relationship.
exactly. It's like, why do you have humans in books? Why can't you just talk about abstract Platonic concepts or something? Like, absurd. So it's like, I don't know. So the point to me is I have gay characters, and it is not about sexuality. It's just people. And for some reason, video games. I mean, in fairness, I suppose they're more worried about the finances than I have to be, and there's something to that. But like, someone should go out on a limb. You know? Someone should do the decent thing, whether the money comes for it or not. I mean, I don't know. I might have lost audience over this, but Jesus Christ, be decent. You know.
I mean, I think that the audience that you would lose out on if you even want them, though, is that, you know,
Well,
because they're going to come around
yeah.
eventually.
I hope so. I mean, I do have a family to support, though. So if assholes want to transfer their money to me, I don't want to be too hard on it. But look, I'm taking money from these people.
Right.
You know.
Well, that's my goal. See, the things I don't want to ever take money from these people. I want to take it from all the straight people who don't support GaymerX.
Yeah.
Like there should be a tax.
You should run for mayor.
Well, no, because I feel awful with the fact that, like, you know, a lot of people paid a lot of money to either fly out here and get badges for this, and this is for this community, and the people who should be paying for it are the ones who are kind of ruining the gaming community for everyone, and the ones who are like, this is fucking stupid. I don't understand. Why? I'm gonna start a straight gaming convention. see how you guys like it. And I'm like, I would love for you to try. I would love for you to see what that is like.
Yeah. Straight cut. That would be
I
great.
actually really want to see it. I want to see Straight Con.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Actually, E3 was actually the inspiration for why I started this.
Really?
Yeah,
That's that
because well, no, it wasn't that bad. It was I was a kid, and you know, I would read Nintendo Power and this and that, and I would always see the E3 issue, and I'd be like, oh, look at all the cool shit. And it was like Disney World for me. And then I went there like when I was like 17, and all it was just like half-naked women, and every party I went to was all just, they just assumed I was just some straight dude, and I just immediately was like super uncomfortable, and like I could tell it was not like a safe space. And I was like, this sucks. And I was like, now what? And I was like, well, there should be a place that I can be a super geek, but also be able to, like, if I have a boyfriend, hold his hand, or you know, talk about stuff, or go up to someone and say you're cute, and not be worried about, I'm gonna get stabbed. That's kind of what inspired me to do this. Yeah. So thanks, E3. E3 has actually gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. Like I went last year, and things are changing actually in the gaming industry. I think pretty rapid. Like not as fast as I'd like, but definitely fast. Hopefully.
Yeah, but this is part of that. This is showing that the money is there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even like last year, we had a couple sponsors, and now like Ubisoft and 2K and like League of Legends, and League of Legends makes $450 million a year, and they're willing to put their name on this. Like that says something that they at least. At the very least, they're willing to take your money and they respect you enough as a customer to I mean, you know, at the end of the day, like, equality makes money. Because at the end of the day, if women and people of color and queer people are playing games and they feel comfortable in that environment, they're going to buy more in-app purchases. They're going to spend their money. Instead, if they don't feel comfortable, then they're just not going to play your fucking game. And they'll do something else and spend their money somewhere else. So it benefits all these companies to have for an equal playing field.
It's true. It's true. I did not see Nintendo as a sponsor.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So what was so I don't know I haven't. It's been a while since I really felt like I don't know. It seemed like they were so tone deaf in how they handled that entire situation, and I don't know if that was just. I mean, it's a Japanese company. I don't know if like whoever was in charge of the PR was just like I'm gonna phone this in because like they don't really care, but like it seemed shockingly tone deaf.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I try to be very, like, business about things. That was one of the few times I've actually, like, legitimately been furious.
Yeah.
Because you look at the statement and it says, oh, this is just supposed to be a fun game. We didn't want to make any political, if you don't know, this is Tamagotchi. Okay, you all know. So, you know, they're like, oh, we wanted this to be a fun thing. We didn't want to make a political statement. And you say, oh, so my identity is a political statement. Like, that's what you're saying. Oh, you can't just easily just be like, oh, yeah, we won't put this person with this person. You're choosing, like, you're making a political statement by actively disabling that feature when it would have been nothing to have that in there. And then to say, oh, yeah, it's not a big deal. I just didn't want to make a political statement. Like, fuck you.
It works.
Yeah, and then what is Nintendo done to fix that? Yeah, we'll try next time, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
And you know, I hope that their sales. I mean, I don't know.
I don't want to say anything I can't take back, but I was very happy
Yeah.
with how they handled that, and I really hope that they begin to realize that there are so many people here with 3DSs, so many people who are huge Nintendo fans, and it really sucks when the company that you love and you grew up with is saying like, yeah, your identity, yeah.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? That is, if you were born in the '80s, right? If the NES, sorry Zach, but like the way gamers grew up was, I mean, by and large, the NES in our homes, that 8-bit console was like for so many of us our foray into gaming. And you're basically saying that thing that you grew up with, like I don't have that affinity for Sony or Microsoft back then. It was Nintendo. And to say that we've had this relationship for all these decades, and the whole time we were just like, well, see, yeah. Don't really
We can
care
do without
much.
that 10%.
Yeah.
We don't want to offend the main market.
Nah, it was pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
No doubt. So what are we gonna do about it, guys?
I don't know. How can we fucking fix that?
Well, I mean, you know, nothing like a good old-fashioned boycott, but I think you're right in that where the money, at the end of the day, these are all for-profit companies, right?
Yeah.
If the money shows, someone's going to have that game. That's gonna be the blockbuster hit. That's gonna have like a total, it's gonna be such a non-issue in the story and the character development and whatever, and everyone's gonna be like, I see what you did there. But like I hope some of these crowdfunding platforms can help bring it to fruition. We've already seen so many independent video game developers now taking to places like Kickstarter.
Yeah. No, I mean even just like stuff like Gone Home, or even when it's AAA companies like when you know they make The Last of Us and you know Neil's deciding like, yes, we're gonna have queer characters, we're gonna make Ellie gay, or we're gonna make Bill gay, or whatever, and it's not crucial to the plot, but at the end of the day it makes them a more three-dimensional character. At the end of the day, like that means something.
Yeah.
The fact that Darren Young, like part of the reason we have Darren Young here is not just because I love wrestling or whatever, it's because he's a selectable character in a game. And so when I play a fighting game now, I have someone who I can relate to. Like I'm like, hey, that's my dude.
As you're beating someone over the head with a steel folding
Yeah,
chair.
yeah.
I love it.
And I think that's especially for young people to be able to be like, yeah, like you know, that's why I think it's so important to even have like why you need to have playable female characters, why you need to have female queer characters. Because the thing is that by allowing someone, maybe a straight cis white male, to be able to play in their shoes, even if it's a completely like, you know, whether it be a game like Dysphoria where you're really diving in, you're trying to like actually, it's a like total empathy game, or it's a game where you're just playing as a female character or a person of color, you at least get to walk around in their shoes, and you get to, it's an active medium, you're not just watching something happen, you are them. And you can see that like they're just like you, and they have to deal with the same shit in a way, and they have to overcome obstacles, and they have families, and love, and hate, and ambitions, and it helps you empathize. Like, I think that, you know, when in the early '90s when you had stuff like Will and Grace or Ellen, even if those shows weren't necessarily great, the fact of the day, at the end of the day, was that it allowed people in the Midwest to have someone queer come into their home every week, and they allow them in their home, and they're not like monsters and not like trying to abduct the kids. They can see they're just regular people, and it allowed people to come to terms with like, okay, homosexuality is okay. And that's why I think because of that we're starting to see, you know, slow and actually pretty quick movements towards equality, but gaming has not had that moment at all. And gaming makes more money than the film, TV, and music industry combined. And I don't understand why that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
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 I'm really bad at like I should probably end with a question or something, right?
Yeah.
You should take questions.
You take
Yeah, let's take questions. If any questions for Zach or for Alexis, come on up to the podium. There's a podium right here in the middle.
It's not a podium though.
It's not even
It's a microphone on a stick.